All set. All right, good evening, welcome. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Bangor City Council. Today is Monday, April 22nd, 2024. It is 7:30 p.m. We always begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I wonder if Scott Carty would lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We have several proclamations this evening. First one, proclaiming April 26, 2024 as Arbor Day.
Thank you. Whereas in 1872, the Nebraska Board of Agriculture set aside a special day for planting of trees, and whereas the first Arbor Day was observed 152 years ago in Nebraska, where more than 1 million trees were planted, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees reduce the erosion of topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife, and whereas trees are renewable resources, providing us with paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and beauty for our community. And whereas trees, where they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas the staff and students of Vine Street School are demonstrating leadership in promoting a clean environment by planting and caring for trees. Now, therefore, I, Rick Fournier, City Councilor, on behalf of Cara Pelletier, Mayor of the City of Bangor, and on behalf of the City Council and the citizens of Bangor, do hereby proclaim April 26, 2024 as Arbor Day in the City of Bangor. I urge all citizens to set aside time on that day and throughout the year to appreciate the importance of trees to our quality of life and to engage in efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. Given this day, the 22nd day of April 2024. Yeah, just a comment was, I know they're planting a tree at Vine Street. Is that on the 26th?
That's on Friday the 26th.
That's this Friday, the 26th. And you're receiving it?
Yes.
Wonderful,
And
thank
are
you.
you going to say something?
I will. What a great day for a proclamation, Earth Day, right? We planted, I don't know who saw Facebook. Am I supposed to push this?
Is it what?
It is
Thank you.
Will you introduce yourself, please?
Aaron Hootery, Public
Thank you.
Works Director for the City of Bangor. And again, great day for a proclamation for Arbor Day, just because it's Earth Day. And you may have seen on Facebook, we planted 17 American chestnut trees at our new tree nursery today. Planning for the future, they're just seedlings, but those will be grown there and then planted around the city. And having students from Vine Street School join us this year is just incredible to get that interest in the future of the City of Bangor. So thank you all for your support of our tree program, both in moral support but also budgetary support. So thank you.
Thank you. Looking forward to the event on Friday. I'll be there to support and I'll try to stay out of your way as you're planning things.
Well, thank you.
Great. Our next proclamation proclaims May 10th as Child Care Providers Appreciation Day. Councilor Schaefer.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Sorry, Madam Chair. I love doing this one because my refrain that I hope others remember if they have never had to use childcare is economic development, and childcare is so important. So I wouldn't have my career without good childcare. So whereas Child Care Providers Appreciation Day, May 10th, 2024 is recognized as part of Teacher Appreciation Week, and whereas the first years of a child's life are the period of the most rapid brain growth and lay the foundation for future learning, and whereas high-quality childcare provides a safe, nurturing place for the enrichment and development of many children in the Bangor community and is a vital force in our economy, and whereas we recognize that roles of childcare providers include providing safety, nurturing, and security to the youngest members of our community, enabling parents to go to work and businesses to thrive. Whereas childcare programs are mostly small businesses run and staffed by women who continue to struggle to hire people to work for long hours with low pay. And whereas the future depends on the quality of early childhood experiences for young children today, and support for high-quality childcare programs represents a worthy commitment to our children's future. Now therefore I, Gretchen Schaefer, Counselor, on behalf of Cara Pelletier, Mayor of the City of Bangor, on behalf of the City Council and citizens of Bangor, hereby proclaim May 10th, 2024 as Child Care Providers Appreciation Day, and urge all citizens to recognize that child care providers should be valued, respected, and fairly compensated for the important roles they play in our community. Thank you.
I believe we had someone from Faith Linking in Action. Accept the proclamation? If not, we'll just give it a round of applause. Thank you. Our last proclamation for the night proclaims the week of May 6th, 2024 as Economic Development Week. Councilor Trumbull.
Thank you. Yes, it's a big deal because they get a week, the other one's just got a day. So this is proclaiming the week of May 6th as Economic Development Week, whereas more than 100,000 economic development or related professionals worldwide are committed to creating, retaining, and expanding top-tier opportunities that facilitate long-term equitable community growth. And whereas the divisions in the City of Bangor's Community and Economic Development Department work to cultivate thriving neighborhoods, champion sustainability and resiliency, boost economic prosperity, enhance quality of life, and build a robust tax base for citizens. And whereas the City of Bangor works in diverse economic environments, including rural and urban areas with our neighboring communities, with numerous state and federal departments, as well as looking to public-private partnerships, the Chamber of Commerce, the Downtown Business Partnership, Hudson University, Eastern Maine Community College, and the University of Maine System, and many other similar organizations in association, all to stimulate and grow our economy. And whereas our city leaders serve as stewards, bridging connections between community stakeholders such as residents, business leaders, industry executives, and educational administrations to collaborate in promoting job creation, community investment, infrastructure advancements, and an optimistic future. And whereas the City of Bangor is invested in its economic future, dating back to the fur trades, the lumber industry, and then on to numerous retail and service markets, and the health service industry, as well as city investments in education, recreation, and resident services. And whereas we respect and concede our livelihood and prosperity on the sacred and ancestral lands of the Wabanaki people, and whereas since 1926, the International Economic Development Council, of which the city is a member, has been a driving force in advancing economic development initiatives with a steadfast commitment to fostering growth and prosperity in communities of all sizes worldwide through equity, inclusion, sustainability, resilience, and innovation. Now therefore, Cara Pelletier, Mayor of the City of Bangor, on behalf of the City Council and the citizens of Bangor, hereby proclaims the week of May 6, 2024 as Economic Development Week, a community celebration that supports expanding opportunities, bettering lives, and moving society forward, given this 22nd day of April. And we have the Director of Economic Development, and there's actually a walk that week, so maybe she can mention that walk as well. I think it's on, is it Saturday of that week?
Yeah,
Yeah, so.
great, thank you so much.
I just want to mention that walk again. It's got a name, I can't, is it Jane's?
Yeah.
And when, it's on Saturday at what time?
10 a.m.
Where should people go if they want to?
Bangor Historical Society.
On Union Street, the Historical Society, on Union Street, 10 o'clock, it's Saturday, May, wait, what? May 4th, and it's going to highlight some economic activity in the downtown area. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, this is the portion of the meeting set aside for public comment. Public comment in person or on Zoom requires you to state your name and whether you're a resident of Bangor. Inappropriate and offensive remarks may be interrupted and removed. Council Chair has discretion over the time allowed for comment. We have up to 60 minutes for public comment tonight. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes for comment. I'd also ask if there are people in the room who do not live or own property in Bangor, please allow those who do to speak first. If you'd like to offer comment on any item that does not appear on the regular agenda, please approach the podium, On Zoom, the public can be recognized to speak by the hand raise function or on the phone by pressing *9.
Wayne Mallor, resident of Bangor. I would like to have Council Order 24-127 removed from the consent agenda to be discussed.
We're not at that portion of the meeting yet. We will be after public comment.
I was told it had to be brought up at public comment.
Okay?
Only doing as instructed.
All right, go ahead, sir.
I'm also questioning the minutes of last meeting. I didn't believe we started at 7 o'clock. It refers to us starting at 7. It refers to 6 members being present and no one being absent. If you have 9 members on the board, how can you have 6 present and no one absent? I think the minutes should be accurate, and I question why it wasn't.
I can make that correction.
Thank you. The city clerk will make the correction. And just be clear, sir, the item that you were asking to remove from the consent agenda is 24-124?
127.
127. Thank you. Just to be clear, to the city solicitor, if we wanted to move something from the consent agenda, would we need a motion for that? How would that work?
We would need a counselor to request that the item be removed from the consent agenda.
Okay, when we get to that portion? Or
Yes.
now?
Well,
Yes.
it's
When we
up
get
to you.
that portion.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Jim Moore. My wife and I have been residents of the city of Bangor for over 30 years on the east side. Most of that time I've worked downtown, vast majority right next door in the Federal Building, and then more recently on Main Street. Over the years, we've all seen increased numbers of homeless folks in the Queen City. And I'd like to commend the city council. Those numbers, in my observation, have reduced dramatically. We, of course, had the encampment on Valley View, which no longer exists to my knowledge. And I've been visiting behind Hope House on a regular basis, and the numbers this year are reduced compared to last year. And I think that's in large part because of the work of all of you, and I appreciate the attention to that population. I also appreciate the city council's support for restrooms at our city parks. I understand that it's not a question of if, but a question of where. And I would encourage the city council to approve outdoor restrooms, at least at 3 city areas or parks. First being Talbot Street, formerly 2nd Street Park. In my observation, there's been a fair number of folks who are homeless in that area that have camped out behind CHCS, and others who stay at the homeless shelter during the night but don't have a place during the day. Also seen the city businesses in that area limit restroom use. There was a time not too long ago where McDonald's, for example, didn't have locks on the restrooms, but now there are locks and you need permission to use those. Shaw's, another large business in that area, now has signage and limits the use of restrooms during certain hours. Second place I would encourage the city council to build a outdoor restroom is Co-Park, and then finally behind, and most importantly, behind Hope House, Camp Hope. There's a number of reasons why having outdoor restrooms are very important. Lack of access is not only an inconvenience, but it can have devastating individual and public health consequences. I hope that the city council will appropriate funds for more than just a porta potty. Having actual brick and mortar restrooms with sinks, allow for folks to wash their hands, allow us to avoid the spread of disease. We all know from the recent pandemic how critically important that will be. In addition to public health and individual health, there's 3 other reasons why I believe that building these public restrooms are important. First of all, well, secondly, I should say, in addition to public health, is certain populations, seniors such as myself, pregnant women, young children, people on certain medications. When they have to go, they have to go. And they're not likely to visit a park if there's not a restroom there. Having easily accessible, clean, safe restrooms will also encourage tourism and more people to visit our city. And then
Thank you.
secondly,
Please finish.
yep, and then it makes also a good business sense. In conclusion, I would just encourage you, at the federal level, the federal government built now Air Force Base with many dozens of buildings. I would hope the city council can at least build a restroom at Camp Hope and these other 2 locations. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me as a resident and taxpayer of Bangor to speak. I want to talk about holding people accountable.
I'm sorry, can you introduce yourself, please?
Hillary Simmons.
Thank you.
I want to talk about holding people accountable and driving policy change is critical for effective governance. So a couple examples I'm going to give you is citizen involvement and accountability, encouraging citizens to actively get out and participate in elections. Not just one side or the party, both sides of the party need to encouragement to get out and vote and participate. Community engagement, encourage participation in local community organizations, town hall meetings, public hearings. Citizens can voice concerns, provide input, and collaborate on solutions. The next one would be local government accountability. This would be transparency. Advocate for transparency in decision-making process. Ensure that the city council meetings, budgets, and policies are accessible to the public. And also ethical behavior. City council members must act ethically themselves. Address any credible gaps and demand accountability from both the elected officials and city employees. Effective city council, city manager relationships also, you need to form that government. In this model, the elected city council sets policy direction and the city manager provides professional expertise to manage that organization. Clear communication and collaboration between the council and the manager are essential, plus the citizens and the taxpayers of the city. My last and final, and I'm sure I'll get hit for this one, reclaim public spaces. Public spaces are meant for everybody to enjoy, everybody. That means reclaim these spaces from homeless, drug addicts, and create environments that benefit the entire community. Thank you.
Don't start it with Debbie.
I know, we're gonna get up here.
I've timed this exactly.
I know you have, you read this last time.
Faster.
Well, if I pass it out, you could follow along, especially if I run out of time. Let's see if I trip over this.
2:35.
Okay. Thanks, Doc. I got one. Good evening, my name is Scott Party and I'm a resident of Bangor. I'm here tonight to continue the conversation of overdose prevention sites, part 2. Here are some of the benefits. Reduction of overdose deaths. Overdose prevention sites provide safe and supervised environment for people to consume drugs, which can help prevent overdose deaths. 2, access to healthcare services. These sites provide access to healthcare services such as HIV, hepatitis C testing, wound care, and referrals to addiction treatment programs. 3, reduction in public drug use. By providing a safe space for drug consumption, overdose prevention sites can help reduce public drug use and discarded needles in public places. 4, harm reduction education. Staff at these sites can provide education on harm reduction practices such as safe injection techniques and overdose preventions. 5, connection to social services. Overdose prevention sites can connect individuals to social services such as housing, employment, and mental health support. 6, decreased stigma. By providing a non-judgmental and supportive environment, overdose prevention sites can help reduce stigma associated with drug use. 7, cost-effective. Studies have shown that overdose prevention sites are cost-effective and can save money by reducing the need for emergency medical services, hospitalizations due to overdoses. 8, increased engagement with treatment. Overdose prevention sites can serve as a bridge to treatment for those who may not otherwise seek help. 9, improved public safety. By reducing public drug use and overdoses, overdose prevention sites can improve public safety in the surrounding community. 10, support for marginalized populations. Overdose prevention sites can provide a safe and supportive environment for marginalized populations such as homeless individuals and those living in poverty.
Part 2 consists of where to place this in Bangor. The Hope House would certainly be a logical choice. If the current situation doesn't change, that would make the most sense, as well as PCHE being very close by. I also shared Part 1 talk with the county commissioners last Tuesday at their 9 a.m. meeting. They didn't throw me out. And I left with the feeling that they are interested in pursuing this further. As we are all aware, we need a new jail, and now that we as a society require corrections officers to be part of the solution, we could also consider having it attached to the new jail. Please don't be shocked by that. The idea that this could be in the same facility makes sense on many levels. We will get to that in Part 3 next time. We know that we are not going to fix the problems by the same methods we've been using. There is a certain percentage of humans that will become addicted to some substance. We have already decided as a society to not incarcerate people for using drugs. Although extremely controversial, this is a sensible and logical solution. Please help protect downtown businesses, the library, the parks, and all public areas, as well as looking out for the well-being of our marginalized population. Thank you.
If you're going to talk about the fund balance, it's on the agenda later.
Is it going to be a public hearing?
I will allow for public comment on that item.
Okay, and I guess if you'll public comment then, I can wait.
Okay, we'll be ready.
Okay.
Anyone else wishing to speak on anything that's not on the regular agenda?
I'm an addict. My name is Justin, and I live in Bangor. I choose to identify that way because the Constitution of the United States guarantees me the right to freedom of speech. To ask that I identify any other way is tyrannical. Well, that's not what I want to speak on tonight. I want to speak tonight about outhouses. The cholera typhoid epidemic in 1906 and 1908, till 1908 here in Bangor, led to sanitation laws that outlawed outhouses. And aren't porta potties just that? Now, I guess we get around that sanitation law because they are temporary, but it sounds like we're trying to make these as part of our neighborhood parks a permanent solution. During the presentation that Tracy so kindly put together to speak of these outhouses, you referenced the Portland Loo, which is attached to city water and sewer. Oddly enough, there was a 2015 AARP Livable Age Friendly Community Survey that referenced 448 respondents, much like this survey that the Bangor Parks and Recs supposedly had done, which outlines the WHO's 8 domains of a livable community. Now, not only were there 3 public hearings about these outhouses, but there was also a 4th one that the Together place. This one was not presented by Tracy Willett, but by the park ranger, I'm sorry, I didn't write his name down, who was passing out sample support letters to all of the people attending that day, and for them to send in here to the city of Bangor. Now, why are we using city resources to drum up support for something that we should be organically finding support for? But it's not the only place that I'm finding inorganic support for these outhouses. There is a non-government organization called Food and Medicine, who on their website has a one-click send a letter to your city councilors, which I have done, and I've changed all of it and referenced the lies that they have on their site, which include that the cleaning, maintenance, and costs are all included and already paid for, which according to Tracy's presentation are still to be determined. Now, when we tried the outhouses at the homeless encampment at the Hope House, the Casella $70,000 each outhouses from April 21st to August 21st, that had to be abandoned because of the feces and needles and refuse that made them uncleanable. The cost of that, according to the Bangor Daily News article, was $5,800 a month for 4 of them to be pumped out up to 5 times per week. That money that we have set aside, the free money as it was referred to one time, our tax dollars is what it really is, isn't gonna last very long if that $5,800 is what the cost is. But again, that was contradicted by the park ranger who spoke at the Together place, who said it was his understanding that the park rangers would be the ones cleaning the outhouses, and that the company who was coordinated to build them would be the one pumping them out once a week. A lot of contradictory information. I hope that we continue to speak on this.
I don't live in Bangor, so I wanted to wait for everyone else. Hi there. Anyone on, do you want to go to anyone on Zoom who says?
Sorry, we just have one hand, so that's okay.
Okay, so I was born and raised in Bangor, went to Fruit Street School, St. John's School, now All Saints, John Baptist. Work in Bangor now at Wellspring, although I'm not here to speak on behalf of Wellspring. I live just over the line at 2284 Union Street, just into Herman. And I've got to get home soon to a now almost 90-year-old father. Anyway, I'm here to say that, first of all, Tracy, your folks didn't pass out a letter at the Together place, encouraging support for the public restrooms. That was done by someone else who was there. So, but I
It
attended.
was my understanding it was a park ranger that did, and I do have a copy of it.
Gentlemen, this is not for discussion.
Okay, yeah, no, I just-
Please,
And speaking to me directly. I was
Mr. Dunbar,
responding.
please address your comments to the
Sure,
council and not
sure.
the folks in the room.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, I know Tracy shook his head and I agreed that it didn't come from the city. Anyway, but I'm here to speak in favor of bathrooms. Every Sunday I go to the encampment behind the Hope House, sometimes during the week as well. And I know, Carolyn, at one point you asked, where do these people come from? I encourage you, here's an invitation. This Sunday at 12:30, although I think the lunch actually begins at 1, there's a group of folks who now, the last Sunday of every month, hold a lunch. And please come. You're all welcome, you're all invited. You don't have to bring anything, although I'll email to you the link if you want to be part of this collaboration. Food and Medicine, a number of organizations are participating. So this has been happening since November. And it's a time where we sit down and talk to people, get to know them, we get to know where they're from. And I wish I was as organized as Scott and others, but I had this newspaper in my house, and Bangor trying to get roofs over more people's heads. This is a photo, a couple of photos from the encampment, and I thought, well, this must be from recently. Monday, September 16th, 2019. We're going on 5 years, and I've said it before, but I'll say it again. The city of Portland runs 2 shelters, the city, in addition to what Preble Street and other nonprofits do and have. The city Portland has 437 beds in 2 city-run shelters. We have 0 beds in 0 city-run shelters. We have fewer shelter beds today than we did before COVID. Fewer in Bangor, despite getting $20 million in ARPA funds, $30 million to the county, despite the explosion in the number of people who are unhoused. We have fewer shelter beds today than we did before COVID. The city of Portland has 437 beds in 2 city-run shelters. We have 0. We have 0. If you want people to get better, if you want fewer needles, we have to have more shelter. We know this, but we have done little. We have done little. I'm a big supporter of the Heart Center for people to go during the day. They need a place to go at night, a reliable place, or they won't get well. Thank you.
Go to Teresa Goodrich on Zoom.
Good evening. I am actually the member of the Child Care Jobs team of Faith Lincoln in Action. I was told to join the meeting via Zoom, so I apologize I wasn't in person. I am speaking after the proclamation about the Provider Day coming up on May 10th. So as providers, we strive to give quality, affordable daycare every day. We make a promise to our families for a safe and comforting place for children with people they can trust. Counselors, I do believe that earlier today you were all provided with a copy of a poem, A Second Home. This is a poem that reflects the true experience, important, and deserved appreciation for child care survivors and educators. So I would like to share this poem with everyone for the appreciation we have on May 10th. A Second Home. This isn't just a daycare. It's like a second home. Our children aren't just cared for, you love them like your own. They learn life lessons every day, strong values you enforce. You make the learning fun with play. Your spirit sets their course. They love the way you read to them and sing those silly songs. In this special place that you create, they feel that they belong. So thank you from deep within our hearts, for words cannot express the gratitude that we have for you and your safe and caring nest. So I apologize, I wasn't right after the proclamation. It probably would have transitioned a little bit better. But on behalf of our group, thank you for allowing me this time to sing.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no one else approach, let's move into the consent agenda.
Minutes of Bangor City Council regular meeting.
Just a title, except for that.
Let's,
At what point, at the end of it? Or no?
at the end of the consent agenda, I'll take motions. Thank you.
Minutes of Bangor City Council regular meeting of April 8th, 2024. Finance Committee meetings of April 1st, 2024 and April 17th, 2024. And Business and Economic Development Committee meetings of April 1st, 2024 and April 17th, 2024. Liquor license renewals, application for liquor license renewal, malt, wine, spirits of Waterfront Concerts LLC, doing business as Waterfront Concerts, 1 Railroad Street. Application for liquor license renewal, malt, wine, spirits of Nocturnum LLC, doing business as Nocturnum Draft House, 56 Main Street. Application for liquor license renewal, malt, wine, spirits of First Lady Inc., doing business as Governor's Restaurant, 643 Broadway. Application for liquor license renewal, malt, wine, spirits of Chase's Family Restaurant Inc., doing business as Chase's Family Restaurant and Hideaway Lounge, 1575 Hammond Street. Liquor license new, application for liquor license new with auxiliary license, malt, wine, spirits of Bangor Birdies LLC, doing business as Bangor Birdies, 278 Webster Avenue. 24-124 order authorizing city manager to execute Maine DOT locally administered project agreement for WIN number 28458.00 Mount Hope Avenue sidewalk. 24-125 order authorizing city manager to execute a Maine DOT locally administered project agreement for WIN number 28474.00 14th Street Extension Shared Use Pathway. 24-126 order authorizing city manager to execute Maine DOT locally administered project agreement for WIN number 28476.00 Broadway and North Park Street intersection improvements. 24-127 order appointing election clerks. 24-128 order authorizing execution of a contract for design and engineering services for $298,900 with Carpenter Associates for the passenger parking lot project. 24-129 order amending fund balance policy by adding a vacant property reserve to section 5.1 general fund assigned fund balances.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilor Trumbull.
I just would request that item 24-127 be removed, just as is a member of the public that would like to speak to it, and I think that's the only way they can comment on it if it's removed from the consent agenda.
Second.
Actually, you can just request it, right? It doesn't need a second, right? I can just request that.
Yes.
We remove it from consent agenda, where does it go tonight?
New business. New business.
New business?
New business.
Okay,
And I would move the consent agenda with that removed.
second. Okay, so we have a motion to approve the consent agenda with item 24-127 moved to new business and a second. Seeing no doubt, it has passage. Referrals to committee and first reading.
24-130, ordinance amending Chapter 165, Land Development Code, District Map, to rezone a property located at 670 Ohio Street from Low Density Residential District, LDR, to Neighborhood Service District, NSD. First reading and referral to Planning Board meeting on May 7th, 2024. 24-131, ordinance amending Chapter 165, Land Development, Section 165-16, to clarify regarding expansion of legal nonconformities. First reading and referral to Planning Board meeting on May 7th, 2024.
Move these items be referred.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions or comments? The items are referred. Unfinished business.
24-118, ordinance amending the code of the city of Bangor by updating the expiration process for short-term rental licenses and adding required details for short-term rental license applications. Councilor Schaefer.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I move passage of ordinance 24-118.
Second.
The ordinance changes would update the city's code of ordinances to change the expiration date for all short-term rental licenses from December 31st to May 31st. Currently, the code sets the expiration date for non-hosted rentals to December 31st and for hosted rentals to a year from when the license was issued. Updating the expiration date for all licenses to one date will provide consistency and clarity for applicants. Additionally, setting the date to May 31st will allow time to calculate the new annual citywide cap on non-hosted rentals based on April 1st tax data. The ordinance update also changes the process for expirations that any license that expires without renewal is treated as a new license and adds additional details necessary for license applications, such as the number of bedrooms located within a short-term rental unit. This item was reviewed and unanimously recommended for passage at the Planning Board meeting on April 16th, 2024.
Thank you, Councilor Schaefer. We have a motion. We have a second. Questions or discussion? It's an ordinance. Roll call vote.
Councilor Dean.
Yes.
Councilor Fish.
Yes.
Councilor Fournier.
Yes.
Councilor Hawes.
Yes.
Councilor Leonard.
Yes.
Councilor Schaefer.
Yes.
Councilor Trumbull.
Yes.
Councilor Yakabaga.
Yes.
Councilor Pelletier.
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Ordinance 24-118 has passage. Next item.
24-119, ordinance amending Chapter 165, Land Development Code, District Map, to rezone a property located at 1017 Union Street from Shopping and Personal Service District, S&PS, to Government and Institutional Service District, GNISD. Councilor Fournier.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This ordinance will amend the Land Development Code District Map to rezone the property at map lot R24-117 located at 1017 Union Street from Shopping and Personal Service District to Government Institutional Service. The total area requested to be changed is approximately 17.45 acres. The applicant is Encompass Health Maine Real Estate LLC, and the owner of record is Union Street Associates LLC. The zoning around the property is primarily Shopping and Personal Service District to the east, west, and south, and high density residential and low density residential to the north. There are also multiple nearby parcels in the Government Institutional Service District. This area is within the growth boundary shown in the 2022 Comprehensive Plan and the future land use map. In the plan shows this property in the neighborhood residential area, which consists of medium-density residential development with limited commercial and institutional uses that are complementary to the surrounding residential land uses. The Planning Division finds this proposed change to be in alignment with the comprehensive plan. This item was reviewed and unanimously recommended for passage at the Planning Board on April 16th of this year. Madam Chair.
Might I just ask that it be reinforced that if any member of the public wants to speak on a particular item, that they come to the podium when that item is introduced?
Yes, thank you. If there is anyone who wishes to speak on any of the items that are on this agenda, once the item has been read, I'll ask for comments or discussion. At that point, if you'd like to approach the podium, you'll have 3 minutes. Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Fournier.
Madam Chair, I'd like to submit a motion for passage of 24-119 ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions or comments? Seeing none on this item, roll call vote.
Counselor Dean?
Yes.
Counselor Fish?
Yes.
Counselor Fournier?
Yes. Yes.
Counselor Hawes?
Yes.
Counselor Leonard?
Yes.
Counselor Schaefer?
Yes.
Counselor Tremble?
Yes.
Counselor Yakabaga?
Yes.
Counselor Pelletier?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Thank you. Item 24-119 has passage. Next item.
24-120 ordinance, amending Chapter 23, Boards, Committees, and Commissions, Section 23-3E of the Code of Ordinances to make the appeal process to the Board of Appeals more efficient. Counselor Yakabaga.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I move the passage of ordinance 24-120.
Second.
Thank you. This ordinance amendment would revise the city's Board of Appeals ordinance to make the appeals process more efficient. Under the current ordinance, the Board of Appeals is required to hold a public hearing within 60 days of receiving an application for appeal, and there is no provision to allow a routine continuance from that deadline in instances where the applicant requests one, except to convene the entire board. The proposed amendment would give the chair of the Board of Appeals the authority to grant a routine continuance to an applicant requesting one without convening the board to do so. The proposed amendment would also clarify that 60 days begins from the date the written appeal and applicable fee are received. This ordinance amendment was reviewed and recommended for passage by the Government Operations Committee on April 1st, 2024.
Thank you, Councilor Yakabaga. We have a motion and a second. Questions or discussion on this item? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Counselor Dean?
Yes.
Counselor Fish?
Yes.
Counselor Fournier?
Yes.
Counselor Hawes?
Yes.
Counselor Leonard?
Yes.
Counselor Schaefer?
Yes.
Counselor Tremble?
Yes.
Counselor Yakabaga?
Yes.
Counselor Pelletier?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Item 24-120 has passage. New business. Why don't we go back to the item that we moved first?
24-127 order appointing election clerks. Counselor Fish. Do you want to read this?
I'm going to go back now. Thank you, Madam Chair. I move for passage of Order 24-127.
Second.
This order will appoint election clerks to work at elections for the next 2 years. Under state election law, the municipal officers shall appoint at least one election clerk from each major political party to serve at each voting place during the time the polls are open. The municipal officers shall consider persons nominated by the major parties but are not required to appoint them. If a municipal committee of a major party does not submit nominations, the municipal officers may appoint registered voters enrolled in that party. The law does not prohibit nominations from sources other than the municipal party committees. If a minor party committee nominates election clerks, at least one appointment must be made from the minor party nominations. Additional unenrolled or qualified minor election clerks may be appointed if there are insufficient major party clerks available. If there are not sufficient election clerks to fill vacancies for a specific election, the clerk or warden may appoint election clerks for that specific election. The list of election clerks is a combination of names of individuals who have asked to serve, as well as individuals who have served in previous elections. Neither major political party submitted names for consideration.
Thank you, Councilor Fish. We have a motion and a second. Questions or discussion on this item? Yes, sir.
I have a couple of questions. It's Wayne Mallor again from resident of Bangor. It says neither major party submitted names. Were there any submitted names by individuals?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I just didn't see it here, and it was confusing to me. I know I'm not always the smartest person here, for sure. Now, the other question I have is, is there a list available of the appointed election clerks with their party designations
Yes,
to
it
the
was,
public?
yeah, it was in the big packet that was online.
I don't use online, I'm old fashioned, I barely can read what's there anyway, but, so it is there with the specific. Now, do you post at the election sites the percentages of parties represented? Whereas if there are not equal numbers, don't you have to do some, how do you fill the spots?
We have to have equal numbers of Republicans and Democrats, and you can have one more of one party than the other, but not more than that. And then we can fill in with unenrolled up to 50%. It can be unenrolled workers.
So where do we see that information?
You would have to come see me. We don't post who's working at the elections. We post the list of election clerks at the polls as required by law.
If you don't post who's working, how do you know you've met the standards?
Well, I know when I'm setting it up.
But the public doesn't know.
Correct. You'd have to come ask me about it.
But shouldn't you be more open about it and post it some, I mean, I have an issue with having to come ask all the time about things. These are things that the state requires, so I would assume they must be posted somewhere. I really question if you ever do it, the percentages. I mean, how would I know if you did or you didn't? Because you don't post it anywhere.
No, we don't.
I think that's something that we need to look into with elections being such a serious item. I think the council and citizens need to know what's going on as far as appointed clerks are concerned. We have the information as staff and required by the state. I just don't know if we're doing it.
I heard the clerk say that the information was in the packet for tonight and that it is posted who was appointed a clerk at the election site on election day. Can you tell me what additional
She
information
didn't say
you're
any,
hoping to
I
have?
asked what the percentages were for, the
Thank you.
required percentages.
Thank you for clarifying.
And we don't see that posted, do we?
No, we don't do percentages.
I mean, it's not that hard to do.
No.
It just makes everyone comfortable about what we're doing for elections. Nationally, we hear so much about election fraud and everything. I'm not saying we have election fraud, but I think it's important to know what's going on.
Thank you for your comment.
Justin, resident Bangor. I concur with Wayne. We do need transparency in government. Without transparency, we only can have tyranny. So thank you for that transparency.
Hillary Simmons, resident of Bangor again. I have a list of the election workers for this last election, and the only ones on it that are stated if they're Democrat or Republican were the people tallying the votes. So it doesn't, I agree with both of them, that it doesn't show that there is a fair division across the board between Democrats and Republicans. If you probably look at this list, actually I'll go tonight and do it, pull and see how many of these are registered Democrats. You're gonna have 75% registered Democrats opposed to Republicans. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, I have a question about that.
Sure.
This order is specific to election clerks. That's different than people who volunteer to work in the poll, or is everybody who works at the poll an election clerk?
They're all election clerks.
Thank you.
The people that have to be, the even numbers has to be within the guide rail area. We have clerks that work outside in voter registration and like voter guides. We don't have to have an equal number in there. It's within the guide rail area where the voting takes place.
Thank you.
My name is Michael Beck, and I live at 216 3rd Street. I just want to add this. As far as transparency goes, I am a stickler for transparency. I'm sure you've all seen freedom of access requests from me, and they're always fulfilled. Any information I've ever asked from the clerk's office has been provided without issue at all, ever. And as somebody who has run for office, I will say that we are very fortunate to have the department we have, the clerk department we do have. You look at any other municipality in this area, it is like pulling teeth to get information about how to run, who the clerks are, or anything. But you come to Bangor and you go on the website, you can get just about anything you're looking for, the information they're looking for, as the clerk has said, if you go and ask for it personally, as somebody who potentially might want to participate in our elections in that way, I would be thankful that my information is not just posted out there on the internet, because we're living in an environment of voter intimidation. And I would hate to see anyone be intimidated because they decided to participate in the elections. I'm all for fairness. I understand that we have to keep this as even as possible. But I just want to be sure that we're not making it sound like the clerk is trying to sandbag or hold back something when she's clearly not. So if you want that information, as she said, you can ask for it personally, and I'm sure she'd be willing to share what she's allowed to by law. Thank you.
Is there anyone who has not spoken on this issue who would like to speak? Councilors, questions or comments? Us in order, we don't need a roll call vote, is that correct?
Right.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Seeing no doubt, order 24-127 has passage.
Public hearing, special amusement license renewal of Waterfront Concerts LLC, doing business as Waterfront Concerts, 1 Railroad Street. Councilor Hawes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Move to open a public hearing for the special amusement license renewal of Waterfront Concerts, 1 Railroad Street.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Public hearing is open.
Seeing no one approach, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Seeing no doubt, public hearing is closed.
I would move passage of the special amusement license renewal of Waterfront Concerts LLC, DBA Waterfront Concerts, 1 Railroad Street.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, the special amusement license is granted.
24-132, order adopting the Penobscot Climate Action Plan. Councilor Fish.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Approval of this order would adopt the Penobscot Climate Action Plan to serve as a guide for reducing the city's greenhouse gas emissions and increasing the city's resilience to impacts from climate change. This plan would become an addendum to the city's comprehensive plan. In February of 2021, City of Bangor adopted a resolve committing the city to adopting a climate action plan that would establish a baseline inventory of the citywide greenhouse gas emissions and would assist Maine in reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 45% by the year 2030 and 80% by the year 2050, and achieving carbon neutrality by 2045. The city embarked on a climate action planning process in the fall of 2021 with staff from BACS, Bangor Area Comprehensive Transportation System, the town of Orono, and the University of Maine. The process involved over 2 years of meetings with various stakeholders, working groups, and officials from the municipalities and the BACS region, as well as public outreach via workshops, pop-up events, and surveys. The resulting plan includes a vulnerable assessment and greenhouse gas inventory for the BACS region and a list of strategies and toolkits to both increase the region's resilience and decrease the region's greenhouse gas emissions in line with the goals stated above. On April 1st, 2024, the Government Operations Committee reviewed and recommended this item for approval. Madam Chair, I vote for the order to be passed, 24-132.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Porter.
I just have a question here. So I'm reading through this. Reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 45% in 30 and 80% in 50, but we're achieving carbon neutrality in 45. We're at 80% in 1950. How can we be at neutrality
I
and
think
45.
it's reducing the emissions, but
Does that put us at neutrality?
the carbon,
Welcome, Anya Colette.
Anya Colette, Planning Officer. Carbon neutrality basically means that you're sequestering the same amount of emissions that you're emitting. So we may by 2045 not have reduced our emissions by 80%, but you get
That's
it.
answering. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Other questions or discussion on this item? Thank you. Seeing no doubt, this order has passage. Final item on the agenda.
24-133 order authorizing transfer of $4,500,000 from unassigned fund balance to various assigned fund balances. Councilor Tremble.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Madam Chair, I move for passage of order 24-133.
Second?
This order authorizes a transfer of $4,500,000 from the unassigned fund balance to various capital reserve assigned fund balances. The charter specifies that the city will maintain a fund balance of no less than 8 1/3% of the prior year's operating expenditures and no more than 16 2/3%. The audit for fiscal year ending 2023 indicates that the city has an unassigned fund balance of approximately $19.9 million, which represents 16.84% of the prior year expenditures. Funding of capital replacement reserves has not been part of the city's annual budget process for nearly a decade. The ability to fund capital needs without impacting the tax rate is part of the city's overall financial management. Staff recommendation is that the $4,500,000 be transferred to the following reserves: $1,925,000 to the improvement reserve, $475,000 to the fire equipment reserve, $1,650,000 to the pool equipment reserve, $150,000 to the energy efficiency reserve, and $300,000 to the bus equipment reserve. If approved, the unassigned fund balance would drop to approximately $15.4 million, which represents 13.03% of the operating budget. This was reviewed and recommended for approval at the Finance Committee meeting on April 17th, 2024.
Thank you. We have a motion, we have a second. Comment on this issue?
Again, my name is Michael Beck, and I live at 216 3rd Street, and I'm here today to speak about unassigned fund balances. The amount jumped out at me, $4.5 million. And in looking at a trend as of late, if you look at the paper I gave you, if you look at Exhibit D, that's quite a jump. Not as big as 2022 when we had to transfer $8 million. I understand the charter tells us to, that's something we've had to do since 2012. But in looking at all the years we've done it since, the last 3 years alone is more than the previous 7 combined. And so the taxpayer, my question, how are we letting that fund get so big? It's a contradictory message that, hey, taxes are gonna go up, but also we've got more money than we know what to do with. So I question that. And then also the same reasoning gets given year after year after year. If you look at Exhibit G, I mean, it's the same wording. And it changes slightly over time, but like this year, saying that the funding of capital replacement reserves have not been part of the city's annual budget process for nearly a decade. Well, if you flip over to Exhibit H, it's been part of the last 3, at least. And that's only the 3 books that are available online. So this is something that has been getting talked about since 2015. So the charter says we have to move some money, and I understand that. But I hope that the takeaway from this is we need to go back and find out, why are we letting that fund get so big? What's going on with our budgeting process the last 3 years? And I can't help but notice, but for the last 3 years also, the audit's been late. The annual report has been late. If you look at Exhibit E, every year, like clockwork, December, always have that audit, with the exception of a couple months where it came out in January. And then the last 3 years, March for the fiscal year 2021, March for fiscal year 2022. This year, as of last week, it still is in draft mode, still being finished. And I worry that, we've got high fund balances going on, we don't have the audit ready. You know, and I've heard in the meetings that, you know, it's also staffing issues with the auditor. Does it mean we have to change auditors? I mean, we need that information. The fiscal year closed in June of 2023, and here it is April of 2024, 2 months away from the very next one, and we still don't have the report of the audit. And that's supposed to be an annual thing, and I would just have a lot of questions. That's a lot of money. And again, if it's the unassigned fund balance, you know, what's going on with our budgeting process that it's allowed to squeak up that high? The last thing was not really part of this, but it was just something, again, I talked to you guys before about the annual report and wanting to go back to the old way. It would be very helpful to have, you know, this information laid out in the way it used to be. So it wouldn't take an accounting degree to figure out what's going on with the city's money as a taxpayer. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Councilor Leonard?
I do have a question actually regarding this order. Thank you, Mr. Beck, for actually going really into this. But it actually has to do with the reserves that we're pulling this into. And I don't know if the city manager or finance director Little are able to answer this question. These reserves, is there an immediate reason for wanting to push these into reserve at this point, or is there any harm or issue tabling this order later on in the year?
I'll start. So Debbie Laurie,
I'm sorry, not later in the year, later on the budget
Nope.
process.
I'll start. Debbie Laurie, City Manager. So as part of the budget process, to Mr. Beck's question about not part of the city budget process, when that statement is made, what it's referring to is the fact that we do not raise taxes to fund reserves. The only way that our reserves are getting funded is if at the end of the year we have excess revenues or expenses that didn't get spent. So the 4.5 million that we're talking about, in essence, if you look, for example, I pulled up the 22 budget. Our actual expenditures varied from our budget expenditures by 7%, which is a little bit higher than we like to, but we all know we had a lot of staffing issues. So besides that, to your point, my proposed budget includes utilizing reserves for a number of the capital items that I have included in my base recommended budget. So yes, the reserves, money being in those reserves to be able to fulfill the city manager's recommended budget, it does, in my opinion, need to be enacted this evening. You could always revisit it, and we could certainly have a conversation at Finance Committee to do that, but as my proposed budget includes the use of some of these reserves, it may not be all of it, but it would be, yes, my recommendation that you adopt it.
So what are the ramifications, though, in the immediacy if we want to say table this for the next council meeting? I mean, the reason why I bring this up is we do have a pretty large discussion regarding the school budget coming up right now, and the only thing that I hesitate on is making sure that we have all of these unassigned fund balances in the same location so that we can still talk about them. We can still move them later on, but like, I guess in a simplistic way, what is, can you just explain to me what is the simplistic reason for why these need to be transferred tonight?
Because they're included in the proposed budget I submitted to you as a council. If you fail to take action to adopt a budget as a council, by default, the city manager's recommended budget goes into effect July 1.
So we still have time, though, to enact it later on, correct?
Right, but I would also say that a reserves is not going to, it would not be my recommendation that you ever use reserve or fund balance to balance your budget. If you're concerned about meeting a funding gap, then you need to look at your expenditures. Because the use of one-time funds for ongoing costs is not sustainable.
Councilor Trumbull?
Yeah, no, I just want to make one comment and a couple comments. One, my initial comment was to basically what the city manager said, that when we got this year's budget, funding reserves is not in their budget. That's only a result of excess in the previous year's budget. So it's not part of the budget process that we fund reserves. It's only if there's an excess in the previous year's budget. But I would like to say, I do agree with Mr. Beck on the need for some type of annual report. I think it would be very helpful. I don't know if it's just an online annual report we do, but I've always appreciated the annual reports, and I think it would be great if, I know it's work for somebody. The audit is pretty close to an annual report, but that is, I guess that was the other question I have. When are we getting the audit? Dave, is it overdue right now, or? I guess we did. I know we talked about it the other night, but I couldn't remember what the timeline is.
David Little, City Finance Director. Yes, the audit's overdue. It should be done in December, as Mr. Beck indicated, and for years it has. COVID sort of created staffing issues for the city, which took us several years to get out of. The finance department is now fully staffed, as well as other departments that are key to getting the audit done. It's a big audit. The audit's been sent, our drafted financials have been sent to the auditors. It is in their hands, they're doing the reviews. As questions are being asked us, we're replying to them on the same day. So I can't say when they're going to release it to us for the final. Hopefully it's going to be very soon, but it's in their hands at this point. But yes, I agree that it should not be issued in March or April. Now that we are fully staffed with the Deputy Finance Director as well as other staff, I don't see why this year it's not going to be filed on time, barring any unforeseen issues. But as of right now, we should be back on track starting this year.
It's the same auditors we've been using, is it
Yes,
RKO?
Yes, Brendan Christie, Nolet out of South Portland. And they had the same type of issues. Their other clients, not just Bangor, but their other clients had staffing issues that put delays into their audits as well. They're still working on some of those. And they had staffing impacts as well, which they had to kind of spread and scheduling issues of their own. So it sort of hit us all at once, and it's taken us time to get out of that. But we should be, hopefully this year, going to be back to the way things should be.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other counselors? Counselor Leonard?
Yeah, do we know when we might get that annual report? Are we going to get that at some point during the budget process? The only reason I bring this up, and I'm sorry to be a stickler on this, but I just feel a little bit uncomfortable voting on this right now without an annual report. Is that going to come up at some point during the budget process?
Yes.
To be clear, you're talking about the audit report?
Yeah.
Yes. If it's not issued by the end of this month, which is what I'm hoping it will be, you'll have it. It'll be done next month. It is very close. They're just wrapping up their final audits, and then it has to go through certain reviews on their end. That, with their own scheduling, can sometimes take, we're sort of at their scheduling now. But yes, you will have it during this budget process, along with a full review. I will say that the numbers that we used for this council order are all in our draft. We don't anticipate any significant changes. And in the prior years, even though the audit was late, there was no significant audit issues. Certainly no excuse for not being able to review it in December or January when you should have it. But there's been no significant changes that the auditors have found, or no significant issues or discrepancies in their audit. We've also gotten a clean audit report and been awarded a certificate of excellence in audit reporting going on 20 years now, I believe. So we are very comfortable with the numbers that we have, and we believe that those are the correct numbers.
Thank you. All right, we do have a motion and a second to approve the order. Since we have doubt, roll call vote.
Councilor Dean?
Yes.
Councilor Fish?
Yes.
Councilor Fournier?
Yes.
Councilor Hawes?
Yes.
Councilor Leonard?
No.
Councilor Schaefer?
Yes.
Councilor Tremble?
Yes.
Councilor Yakapaga?
Yes.
Councilor Pelletier?
Yes.
8 yes, 1 no.
Order has passage. That brings us to the end of the regular agenda. Any comments from staff? Thank you. Closing comments. Councilor Fish.
Good night. Thanks for coming, everyone.
Councilor Haas.
Good night.
Councilor Yakabaga.
Good night.
Councilor Trumbull.
Good night.
Councilor Leonard.
Good night.
Counselor Fournier?
Chief Hathaway, what's the score of the game? Good night.
Counselor Schaefer?
I just want to say, the true first sign of spring is the Kandusky Grace, and it went off without a hitch, and some people got wet and some people didn't, and that's how I think we like to have it in the city. And just, it looked like it was a great time by all, and sun came out at the very end, which might have been appreciated a little earlier, but good job on that. And the big dig, I think, is this weekend. They moved that, like the downtown planting and stuff is this weekend, so spring is possibly coming.
Thank you. Thank you. Counselor Schaefer. Counselor Dean?
Good night, everyone.
I'll just say I'm looking very forward to helping the kids at Vine Street School plant a tree this week for Arbor Day, and also Saturday night to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Cross Insurance Center Gala. Looking forward to the one night a year where I'm going to wear a dress. So, that being said, thank you all for coming, sharing your comments tonight. Please continue to share your thoughts about how we make Bangor a better place